Southeast Iowa Today with John Bain is brought to you by these great sponsors. Car Doctor of Washington, Iowa. No matter who Frankensteined it, they can fix and clean and customize it. Griner Auto Body of Washington, Iowa, using state-of-the-art techniques and decades of experience to get your car back on the road after an accident. Wayland State Bank, over 90 years of being community-minded, just like you. Located in Wayland, Winfield, and Mount Pleasant. McDonald Boneyard in Keota, Iowa, for all of your auto and farm machinery and recycling needs. Hinshaw Trailer Sales in Richland, Iowa. They've got a trailer for whatever you need one for, and they fix what they sell and don't in their full-time repair shop. Girling Repair in Winfield, Iowa. If your mower is dead, call Fred, your Husqvarna and Aaron's dealer. B&B Propane and the family of jet stops located in Burlington, Salem Stub, New London, West Point, Denmark, Houghton, Bonaparte, Milton, Fairfield, and Birmingham present Southeast Iowa Today. I'm John Bain, author of Christie's Journey, The Beat Goes On, and your host. On today's episode, I take you to the world of Iowa harness racing in Waukesha, Iowa. It all happened on September 2nd, 2023. They're a great bunch of people, and they gave me all access, which means you get it too. Mark, welcome to Southeast Iowa Today.
Thanks.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you for taking some time to introduce myself and the viewers of Southeast Iowa Today to harness racing. And we are here at the Keokuk County Fairgrounds in Waukesha. And first of all, give me a little bit of your background.
Grew up, as far as harness racing goes, grew up in it. I think I was 10 or 11 when my dad started harness racing. We had a neighbor that lived a mile north and 2 miles west named John Nessa, who was in harness racing since he was a kid. And my dad ended up getting roped into it, and then by proxy, I ended up getting roped into it. And when I came home from the Marine Corps, I've basically been doing it ever since I got home. It's so 2000 I moved home. So 22, 23 years now, I've been involved in some way, shape, or form all but a couple of those years.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service to our country.
Oh,
I really mean that. That's a major sacrifice and a major commitment.
sure.
So thank you for that. And then when you say you've gotten involved, what all does that entail as far as harness racing goes?
It's an excellent question. Everyone's involved at different levels. Some people own horses, and that's the extent of what they want to do. They want to pay someone else to train them, pay someone else to drive them, and just enjoy having them. Other people train their own horses. For the most part, the people who own horses in Iowa train their own horses. And some people go further. You know, I shoe my own horses. I train my own horses. I drive my own horses. When I was in, I've been out for the last year, but I pretty much do everything but dentistry.
Wow.
Over the years, you teach yourself how to do more and more things to save money. Really.
And that is something, dentistry is something it would need to be addressed too.
Yeah, these horses have to be looked at least once a year, better twice a year, to keep their teeth healthy, which keeps their entire body healthy. Plus, we steer them by the mouth. So if their teeth are sharp or jagged, or if they're worn unevenly, it can cause issues with steering and control. So every little piece of a horse has to be taken care of when it's a race horse.
Yeah. Now, so that I say this properly, you had said that you drove. Now, is a harness racer, it's not, are you called a jockey?
No,
No.
I'm called a driver.
Okay, a driver.
Because we sit in the seat behind them and steer with the two lines, a la like a Amish buggy,
Right.
Something like that. So we
Yeah.
race with a cart with two, essentially 10-speed wheels, 29-inch wheels, and sit a very short distance behind a horse and steer them like that.
Now, I was looking when I first got here, and these carts, they're basically, it's like one seat, and you're pretty much out there with that horse, being dragged on wheels. Basically, it's a...
Yeah, by a 1,000-pound animal, that's 50% controllable,
Yeah.
depending on how you train them and how you want yours. I always had mine a little aggressive for the most part, because that's the way you want a racehorse.
Okay.
And the carts that we see in the morning are much longer.
And I want to get
if we
zoom
can
in
get
on that cart. There he is.
That's called a jog cart, and those are much longer. The race bike, or the sulky that we use, sits probably 3 feet behind the horse's tail.
Okay.
So much closer than that. That's
Now-
probably 5 feet.
Now, how fast do you guys get going with these horses?
That horse is probably going, it looks like 13, 14 miles an hour, just jogging nice and relaxed. Probably races tomorrow.
Okay.
The horses in a race, you know, a 2-minute mile is 30 miles an hour, but at the start and the end, they're usually going a little faster than that. So they probably get going about 35 out here.
Wow.
34, 35 is top speed, and then at the big tracks, of course, they can go a little faster than that. Yeah.
A beautiful horse. So, how many horses are and drivers are out there at a time in a race?
The board has made some changes over the years. It used to be up to 9, then it was 8, now it's 7. So any field that has more than 7 horses in it, they split to make 2 fields.
Okay.
So there will only be 7 at a time. 5 can start on the starting car, and then 2 would be in the back tier. And those 2 horses kind of can communicate to each other and shift around as they feel it's safe or necessary to make sure that nothing bad happens.
So when they line up with the 7, is it like 3 in the front, 4 in the back?
Nope, it's always 5 on the front.
Oh,
Always 5 on the car. The starting car will have 5 spots, and the way for it to be the most even, say there's only 5 horses in the race, that way they all get to start on the car, even start. Of course, the inside horse has something of an advantage because we're on a track that only turns left.
yeah.
So the outside horse has to go faster and further to get to the front off that starting car. But try to keep it as neutral as it can be. And then the 6 horse and the 7 horse start right behind them. And I mean immediately behind them if the driver so chooses.
Now, how are their positions selected beforehand?
There's a draw. So if you have, say, a 2-year-old pacing filly, you would enter into the 2-year-old pacing filly. And let's say there's 20 of them. Then they would have 2 fields of 7 and a field of 6. They would split those up. If there are common owners, say one person owns 3 horses, those horses wouldn't have to race each other, so they'd be separated into the 3 divisions.
Okay.
And then the draw for the race itself is completely random.
Oh.
There's actually an electronic way to do it through the United States Trotting Association website, where all they have to do is enter the names and then hit draw, and it will randomly select post position. So try to keep it as unbiased as possible.
Gotcha.
And it's all luck of the draw.
Wow. Now, I understand there's some big purses today on these races. I've heard as much as maybe $12,000 per race.
I think today the 2-year-olds haven't rained out. I don't think so. They're around 7,000.
Okay.
So they haven't rained out in a while. But the 3-year-olds rained out 2 times, 2 weeks in a row, and just raced last week. And I think tomorrow they'll be going for like 10,111.
Wow.
I honestly haven't looked at the program.
Okay. That's a lot of
Per race.
dollars.
Yeah.
Now, do the stands fill up for these events?
Amazingly, no. It's kind of an older sport. The longer you get from people who had to use horses for work,
Right.
those people still come out, the older generation. The young kids, for the most part, don't like this unless they grow up in it.
Gotcha. Well, for you younger kids that may be thinking about your hot car with the horsepower, well, this is the real horsepower right here. So you can really understand when you compare horsepower to engine horsepower and how that's measured. I mean, it's worth coming here to see.
Well, I can tell you, I have been pretty lucky in my life. I've had literal race bikes, 1,000cc super bikes, Harleys, fast cars, had work done to pickups to make them fast. Nothing feels like a fast horse, especially if it's a horse that is determined and a little out of control, just maybe a little on the edgy side, and you know how fast they are and how bad they want to go fast. Nothing feels like that.
Wow. And and it's really, it's such a it has a longevity to it, the history of harness racing and horse racing and the horse in general that helped form the United States.
Absolutely. And this sport used to be huge, and now it's still big in parts of the country. Iowa, it's relatively big. We have an Amish community.
Right.
Pennsylvania, it's even bigger. They have an Amish community. New York, same. New Jersey, I actually think there are some Amish communities in New Jersey, but that's a small state with a lot of people, so
Right.
there's not a ton of agriculture there. But yes, it's harness racing used to be a huge deal. It was the NASCAR of the time in the early 1900s. So over time, it's gotten less popular, but there's still enough money in it and enough interest in it that people want to do it if they grew up in it.
Now, someone that races here this weekend in Waucheer, I'm making the assumption that they would go to other tracks and circuits around the state, or do they just stay here?
It's all one circuit here in Iowa,
Okay.
the Iowa Harness Horse Association. The bulk of the races are divided between here and a track in Humboldt, Iowa.
Okay.
We have, over the years, through the Prairie Meadows money that we get that's legislated, spent a bunch of money to fix up those two tracks specifically for horse racing only.
Okay.
And then we also race at a bunch of places that have car races, or like the Great Jones County Fair in Monticello, the Southern Iowa Fair in Oskaloosa. I don't remember what the name of the fairgrounds is in Eldon, which is crazy because I lived there when I was a kid, but we race a couple times a year in Eldon.
Okay.
A lot of stuff in Southern Iowa, actually.
When I was a kid, and I grew up in the Quad Cities area, and the big place was the Quad City Downs in East Moline.
Yes.
I mean, that was like a mini Chicago track, I would
Yes,
describe
through
it.
the 80s, it was crazy popular back then in Quad Cities.
Did you have experience there?
I did, but I was a young guy.
Uh-huh.
So by the time I was high school age, Quad Cities was on the decline. But I had a couple horses that were there. I actually had one race there, and a guy from Southern Iowa named Gary Phillips bought it and took it to his place. But I was living in Southern Illinois at the time, and we made quite a trip to go up and race her there, to try her there, and she wasn't good enough for that track either.
Wow.
But, it happens sometimes.
Yeah. Now, before we got on camera, you and I were talking, and you've got an interesting career. You want to share that with the audience?
I don't know how interesting it is. The older I get, the less interesting it is. I'm an emergency room physician assistant in critical access hospital. So I do 24-hour shifts, and I'm about to, in a couple months, I'm going to start a job that actually does 36-hour shifts.
Wow.
And you work in a small town in the emergency room, and that's it. You're the guy or the gal, depending on what sex you are.
Uh-huh.
So they come in, whatever it is, you treat it, and if it needs to stay in your hospital, it does, and if it needs to go to a higher level of care, then it does, and if you can treat it and send it home, then that's what you do. So.
And you told me today that once you're involved in this sport, you're always involved in this sport.
Well, that's a funny story too, because I actually retired from horse racing last year. I was 49, getting ready to turn 50, so I'm 50 now, and I thought I didn't want to be working that hard. I was shoeing too many and driving too much as far as miles in my vehicle, and I didn't think it was worth it anymore. So I got out, sold out. My sister and my nephews bought most of my stuff. I sold my horses, and I was out for 11 months, 10 and a half months, and now I'm back to help out a friend of mine with a couple of her horses. So I just happened to show up today, and Royal couldn't be here because he got a colt caught in a fence. So here I am doing a podcast on a day I wasn't even supposed to be racing because I'm supposed to be retired. So
He's back.
You can't get out.
You can't
it
get.
sticks with you forever.
Yeah. It's in your blood, isn't it?
It gets that way. That's the saying. Yeah, it gets in your blood, and you can't get it out.
That's awesome. Well, just kind of wrap up our conversation. As I'm going to be here for quite a while today, and going to get some of that racing. What can I expect to see?
Well, usually there is some intensity, some emotion, and horses that are, for the most part, cooperative and eager, and sometimes a little uncooperative. So you got to kind of keep your head on a swivel. Some of these horses are young and they haven't perfected everything as far as the little things, coming out of the barn, turning around on the track. You see weird things sometimes, but for the most part, you're going to see a bunch of eager, cooperative horses who do their best, and the drivers try to put them in position to do their best. And the emotion comes into play when maybe one driver's trying to do one thing and another is trying to do another thing, and they're not cohesive, and then you have a little bit of friction, kind of like car racing.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of different levels of intensity, I guess you would say, from the horse to the driver to the trainer, and even the people that sit in the stands. There won't be a ton of them, but they'll pick their horse and they will cheer for it vigorously, and they'll be happy if it wins and upset if it loses.
Well, I've heard that the very first car race was when the second car was built.
Yeah,
And
that would be accurate.
And I'm sure the very first horse race was when the second horse came along.
Yep, there was probably someone who was headed to the field and someone else was headed to a field in a similar direction, and that was probably the first horse race ever.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for giving us a little education and introducing some of our audience to harness racing, some that will watch us and already know, but thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to checking out more of this throughout this day.
Absolutely, have fun.
Corey, thanks for being on Southeast Iowa today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John.
Now, you're an interesting guy. You have a career. Not only are you a driver, an owner, and a trainer of these fine animals, these horses, you also have another career.
Yeah, so then my full-time job, or my actual job, would be shoeing horses. I'm a farrier. So then I shoe horses for some people that we race with and other race horses, and then all the way to your show horses, to barrel horses, and then all the way down to pasture pets, mini ponies and donkeys that people want to make look good.
Wow. Now, when you were a kid, how did you decide this is what I want to do when I grow up?
So actually, the year I was born was the first year that my dad started racing horses, and my dad is a second generation farrier.
Okay.
Shot horses. So then I grew up doing this, grew up going in the truck with him. We didn't go to daycare. It was go with dad and sit in the truck and follow him around.
That's the best daycare that could be.
Exactly. So that it was just ingrained in me, and I love it, and I'm like, this is what I want to do.
Wow. And where are you from?
So originally, I grew up by Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Okay.
And then went to college at Iowa State, met my wife, and then we now have a farm in Marshalltown, Iowa.
Wow. In some ways, you're a real-life pioneer.
Yeah, kinda. It's like we're starting over at a new place, but some of that is the breeding program. They got the horses have to foal in Iowa, so we wanted a farm in Iowa.
I'll be darned.
And then Marshalltown's about halfway between most of the tracks that we race at, and we found ourselves a good farm, and that's where we decided to live.
Now, who is this fine horse right here?
This is one of our 2-year-old fillies. Her name is Marked Rain. She's did pretty good this year. Seems to get consistent checks in the A, and that's what we hope for.
Now, explain to some of us folks that don't understand what you just said.
So we have different divisions. We have A division and a B division that you can race in. And
Okay.
then you pick where you want to go. Obviously, the A are better horses. The B are the not so better horses.
And so she's an A.
Yeah, and then we pay out first through fifth, and it's on a percentage basis. And then so as long as you keep getting checks, you keep making money every week.
All right. So how do you make sure she stays in that bracket? I mean, without, telling your secrets, of course.
I mean, I don't know if there is much secret. I mean, most horses either have talent, and it's just about not ruining them. Make sure they don't go sore, they don't get lame, they don't have a bad attitude, keeping them healthy, and just helping them reach their potential.
Well, how do you figure out, or how do you develop that talent?
It takes a lot of years of experience and learning from other people, listening to the older generation tell you what to look for.
You mean you actually listen to old people?
You have to. You have to. Sometimes you make a combination of it, and then, the new ways you try and change some things, but sometimes going back to the old ways works just as good.
Now, what do you find, besides the fact that it's just a beautiful animal to be with, what draws you to stay into racing?
The biggest draw is the adrenaline rush that you get. So when you're out there racing, doesn't matter if you're racing to win, that's always the best. But if you're just in a close race and you're like, I don't know who got to the wire first, but we were all right there. And it's that adrenaline rush. And then, like here in Iowa, these 3 are actually all foals that we raised. So they were all born at our farm. Wow. And then to watch them go from knowing nothing to being a racehorse is very satisfying. It's all about the adrenaline and the satisfaction that keeps you going forward.
Now, you said you're married.
Yep.
Does your wife participate in the business?
My wife helps and jogs and stuff at home, and she used to help in the barn a lot more, but now we got a little 1.5-year-old daughter, so that's kind of changed our dynamic a little bit. She takes a lot, but our daughter comes out to the barn and runs around and plays, and she enjoys it. They'll be here in another hour or so to come to the races.
So it's possible 3rd generation.
Yeah, there's a possibility. That'd sure be nice.
That would be. By that time, you'll be an old guy.
Yeah, I'll be old.
And
Right?
she'll have to listen to you.
Yeah. I don't know if she's gonna listen much.
Right.
Oh, shoot.
Well, so today, you personally, you'll be driving
Correct.
all three of these
Yep,
horses.
Yep.
So how many races will they participate in today?
Each horse participates in one race per day.
Okay.
That's the way we're set up in today's. 20 years ago, they used to race 2 races a day.
Okay.
But now there's getting to be enough horses, and the demand and the stress that it puts on them, we usually just race them once a day, and they usually race once a week.
Okay.
Like next weekend, we come back to What's Your next weekend to race again, and just kind of once a week racing. And
Okay. Now I heard there's going to be a big purses today. That this is like or this weekend, like because we're in Labor Day weekend. Is there something to do with that, or how did it add up that way? Is it because other races didn't happen?
Kind of. We have what we're racing today is called the Iowa Registered Series division, and that we allocate so much money for. So the purse money today is $7,000 a race, and then we have other races that we hold. We call them overnight races, and they're $1,000 purse money.
Okay.
But now, like tomorrow, they're going to race for almost 10 grand because they had 2 rainouts.
Gotcha.
So then the money gets carried forward, and the purse will be almost 10,000.
Okay. That's a lot of money.
It can be if you win. It's a good paycheck.
Yeah, it is. And of course, it's a lot of money to take care of these horses
Yes.
and do everything.
Yes,
So
the cost to take care of them adds up, and that's always kind of fixed / variable. But you just hope in the end you pay all your bills and make a little money, and it's a fun hobby.
There you go.
If you go fishing, you just lose money, but
that's true. That is true. And lures.
yeah.
Now, do you have any rivalries?
Yes and no. There's generally people that you're like, hey, me and him are buddies. And then there's other people you're like, it doesn't matter, we just want to beat them.
Yeah. And they feel the same way about
They
you.
feel the same way about you. They're like, yeah, it doesn't matter, we just want to beat them. And it might be going for 5th versus 6th, but it's like, doesn't matter, my horse beat yours.
There you go. And then I got a question. Does that competition carry on into other forms? Like, okay, this didn't go the way I wanted on the track, but I'm going to get my trailer out first off the fairgrounds, or I'm going to get in line first, or I'm going to do this. Does that ever happen?
No, not terribly, unless people are really mad at each other. Generally, for the most part, around here, it's pretty good. On the track is on the track, and off the track, everybody's pretty cordial and talks to each other, and it's all fine.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
I am looking forward to this today.
Good.
When I was first told about it, I'm like, yeah, I got to be here.
Yeah, no, it's a good time, and I think it costs $5 to get into the grandstands, and you get a program, pick a winner, and a pick 10. If you can pick all 10, you get $1,500.
Wow.
And then here they call it a progressive pick 10. So then, however many horses you pick right for the day, they add that up, and then they keep doing that every time we come, and then at the end of the year, they pay out the money too.
Awesome.
So that works good for the people who want to come and watch it.
Yeah, it does. Well, that sounds like fun. Thank you so much for getting me acclimated to the sport and for our audience as well.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best today.
Thank you much. It's great for having me.
Dwayne, thanks for being on Southeast Iowa today.
Hi, John.
Hey, I really appreciate the access you're giving me and my audience today to harness racing here in Watchier. This is incredible. You've got a couple of your horses right here.
Yep.
And
So this one's name is Gandalf. He's a 2-year-old gelding pacer. He's raced about 10 times. He's had 2 wins in 8 seconds. So he's a pretty good horse.
yeah,
He's won about $15,000 so far this summer. We have 3 more races yet this year. So he could earn a maximum of about another $7,500 if he won all 3 of those.
Wow.
Our purses are $7,000, and they pay out 45, 25, 15, 10, and 5 in the percentages.
Gotcha.
So
so he's kind of a
he's very-
special.
yeah.
And he's a beautiful horse.
Yeah, so standardbreds predominantly are bay or brown color with maybe white back ankles and a little star. So he's pretty abnormal that he's a roan color.
Okay.
You maybe find 1% of our standardbreds would be this color.
Wow. Handsome. So I want to show over here to show
Okay.
that these horses are more of the color you would normally see then, right?
So we have Recording Angel. She is a 2-year-old filly trotter. Finn Shui Prosperity. She's a 2-year-old filly pacer. And the other one's name is Marked Fox, and she's a 2-year-old filly pacer also.
Beautiful animals. So how long have you been doing this?
So I jogged my first horse when I was 7. I was born in 1967, so that'd be what, about 1974, 75? I jogged my first horse.
Okay.
Started racing when I turned 16. Raced professionally for a few years, from about 16 to 22. And then I had to make a decision, like, do I really want to move to Chicago or New York, or do I
Gotcha.
want to stay at home? And I was like, I really don't want to go. I'll stay here. And so then at that
Think
point,
you made the right choice?
yeah, because of all the things that have happened in life since then. So we cut back on our horses at that time, and my dad already had about 750 acres of crop ground that he rented out. And so he's like, if you want to start farming, farm. So I taught myself, and since then we bought about another 800 acres.
Wow.
So right now we're about 1,500 row crop, which we used to plant in the spring, and harvest in the fall when we're done racing here. Our racing season in Iowa runs from about the last week in May through the end of September.
Okay.
So it works out fairly well.
Yeah, everything falls in place
And
chronologically.
then we have also about 25 brood mares and 5 stallions. And so we breed and foal and raise all of our own horses that we race.
Wow.
And then we'll race them when they're 2 and 3 years old, and then we sell them at the end of their 3-year-old year. And typically, the better ones that I would say are valued somewhere between 10 and 50,000 go to either Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, where they race year round.
Okay.
And there are people that do it for a living, and they're always looking for new horses. The horses peak performance-wise, say 4, 5, 6 years old. So you get 3 really good years out of them,
Okay.
and then they kind of lose their step, so to speak.
Gotcha.
And so depending on the level that you want to race at, and the purse money is different in different racetracks, the top level people are always looking to buy a new stock
Gotcha.
to make more money. And then their stock rolls downhill to the next person that's maybe at a B-level track.
Gotcha. The time that it takes to do this, I mean, you've got to be focused all the time. I mean, between your farming and this, the horse side of things, people that look at people that are successful, good, successful people make it look easy from afar. And the bottom line is there's a heck of a lot of work and drive and determination that goes into it. Tell us about that.
So, since harness racing is my passion, and I can't get enough of it. People have addictions of golf, all the different kinds of sports, whatever they want to get into. And my family is horse racing. Racing standardbred horses at the county fairs in Iowa is like, that's what we do. My brother races, my nephew, they both live here in Iowa. I have a nephew that does it professionally, that travels between California and Minnesota. I have a niece that lives in Ohio. Her and her husband do it professionally, and they race in Ohio year-round. It's like, that's our identity,
Right.
and
It's who you are.
that's who we are.
Right.
The farm in Grinnell, where we live, has had horses on it since 1969.
Wow.
And everyone knows that's the horse farm. We have our own half-mile track that we get to prepare the horses on. We have the training center that has 32 stalls. Then we have the foaling center that has 8 more stalls. And then we have about 160 acres of pasture that's subdivided several times into different pastures and lots. And then there's another barn up there that when the foals are born at our house, then when they're about a week old, they go up to the Fleener farm. And that's where they stay, and there's pastures, and then we breed up there and stuff like that.
Now, how many people does it take to do all this?
Typically, the most we've ever had was 8 employees,
Okay.
and right now we're doing it with 4, which is a lot more work than I want.
Yeah.
When we had all those people working for us, we were racing between 26 and 30 horses. But we put that many in training, and when we would go to the races, we'd race 12 on Saturday, go home, fill the trailers, and go back on Sunday and race 12 more.
Wow.
And we'd show up with like 6 people, and it's like an army of people
Yeah.
to race that many horses.
Now,
So this year we cut back to 12 because we just don't have enough people to,
Right.
to operate at that size.
now, if someone is watching right now and they know a individual, younger individual that might be interested in something like this, is that something you would be open to have them reach out to you on, or is that something that?
Yeah, I can advise people. But
What's the best way for someone to get a hold of you if they wanted to?
well, in your area would be Corwin Hinshaw.
Okay,
His family raced horses forever.
and he's at Hinshaw Trailer Sales in Richland, Iowa.
And he's like, you need a number for a Roland, just call me up.
There you go. So there you are, folks. If you're listening and you want to maybe someday work with magnificent animals like this, there's the way to do it.
There we go.
All right. What would you want our audience to know that I haven't asked yet, because I'm not smart enough to ask, that we should share with them?
If you can get into racing horses and driving them, and you get the opportunity, and you are close to someone that already does it that can mentor you, it's possible to actually buy in, and you can do everything yourself. But you really need someone to kind of teach you or mentor you. There's a guy from Marengo that's 45 that bought his first horse 2 years ago.
Wow.
Okay, so he paid like $5,000 for the horse. He bought it at the Kelowna sale.
Okay.
Last year, the horse was the best horse in its class, and it made like $45,000.
Wow.
And he had he jogged it, trained it some, but then he gave it to a more professional person because it was such a good horse.
Okay.
And now this year, he got his license to drive. He did all the training himself, and he has a successful horse, and he's doing well. And he's told me, doing it all himself and winning that race by himself is way better than just owning the horse that was good.
Yeah.
Because it was like, it's all me. And once you get out there on the race, and you'll see later today, you get behind the starting gate, and when they come to the start, you're doing about 35 miles an hour. The wheels are like 2 inches apart, and everybody's like trying to figure out, how am I going to race this race? And the best way, so you're playing chess with 6 other people, all driving a 1,000-pound animal going 30 miles an hour for roughly 2 minutes and 5 to 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Wow.
And if you can beat that other guy, it's like the biggest rush.
Oh, I bet so. Now, I talked to Corey a little while ago, and he said even the horses are into it.
Oh yeah,
They want to win.
they want to win. Yeah, and they're just like, so you'll see there'll be a lot of action in the first turn, and then the horses will kind of line up, and then they'll come to the half, and somebody's going to pull out, and there'll be people following them, and it's all in the strategy thing on how can we win or beat the other guy.
Wow.
And when you pull on the right line to go, those horses like, it's time to go.
I can't wait. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. I got to ask you, we talked a little bit before you got on camera, and we talked about the Amish community in Southeast Iowa. And obviously their need and use and desire to have horses. Can you tell a little bit?
So they're the Amish. So our horses are trotters and pacers, and obviously not all of them are good enough to race. And so that would be our market to dispose of a horse, and it still has some value to someone else to drive it. Okay. Now, there's a misconception that they don't pay a lot, but they do. So like a younger horse that doesn't have a lot of work, that's just not fast enough, you're looking at probably $2,000 to $6,000 for that horse. Then say it's a black gelding with white legs and it's big, you're looking at like $15,000 to $20,000. And then if it has a lot of action in front, there's very specific things that Amish guys like with their horses. It's just like buying a car.
Yeah.
And the nicer the horse, the more color, the better gait. It's just like chrome wheels on your car, and they'll pay more. And they breed. There's been stallions that Amish people have bought for $100,000 to $300,000 to breed mares.
Wow.
To get a specific gait. It's really important to them, the way the horses stride out. So those guys, they're pretty particular.
It's kind of ironic for people that don't want to be too flashy. their horses are kind of flashy.
The horses are flashy.
Yeah.
And they want them to go fast.
Yeah. So, that's one thing I learned more and more with the Amish community. Those folks aren't much different than most of the folks that are watching this podcast.
They are not. We call the Amish that are around Kelowna the Beverly Hills Amish. Because, they got phones. They got cell phones. They're texting. They're doing... And now there's some that, they all have their own rules. Right. And some of them are like, well, you can only use your cell phone for business, or you can't carry it on you. But, everybody bends the rules a little bit.
Right. Well, this is fascinating, Dwayne. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best out there on the track today, and continued success in your business. And thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, hop right in there, hon. Okay. But let me flash anybody. All right. Are you all ready? That it?
Yeah, we got guys on the course. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna go out and go around the track one time, and then we'll come back here and
Okay.
get the next.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm going to go over to the track and take some video.
Yeah.
And there goes a bride. So tell me about what I just witnessed here.
So, Susan Hayes, she is mother of the bride.
Okay.
She rode with me in the starting gate. I'm the official starter out here. And she just loved it and wondered if there would be something unique that she could do for her daughter's bridal shower this year.
Well, this is definitely unique.
Yes. So they have a Kentucky Derby themed bridal shower going on here today.
Okay.
And so we wanted to give some unique experiences. So we have some rides for some of the bridal party. Hopefully they'll want to come and get in the starting gate with me, see how that works, and just really have a enjoyable day at the races. They're doing some games up in the grandstand, and they are giving away a flower garland to the winner of the 10th race.
Nice.
So lots of fun stuff going on today.
What a neat idea for a wedding, bridal party.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks for informing me.
Yes. So if you'd like to come right in the starting gate, take some photos and do some videoing, I'd love to have you.
I'm there. We got a date.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be leaving, if you want to do the first race, that's a good time to get in. We'll be leaving here about 12:15.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. Nice to meet you, John. So what did you think, Michaela?
Okay.
I love it.
All right. So Michaela's mother needs to have a ride.
Yes. Well,
Yep.
my butt's sweaty on there. Okay.
Okay. All righty. Good. Yep. Well,
All
we're
right.
playing around.
Well, yeah.
Yes. We're on. Right? Yep. I'm coming your way.
And there goes the next bridal party participant for her ride around the track. Michaela, welcome to Southeast Iowa today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
You're quite welcome, and congratulations on your upcoming wedding.
Thank you so much.
And what's your fiance's name?
Ryan Exline.
All right. Well, hello to Ryan as well. You, young lady, have had a neat day and a neat idea for your bridal party.
Yes, we have. We're having a Kentucky Derby style horse race here at the harness races, so it should be fun.
How did you ever come up with this idea?
It's actually my mom's idea. She first found the harness races a couple months ago and first started coming, and she's like, oh my gosh, you guys would love this place. You have to come see it. So she brought us out here today.
How was the ride?
It was so fun, so fun.
Did Royal get you going fast out there?
Not as fast as they normally race. He said just for safety purposes, obviously, but we were going pretty fast, yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations on your upcoming wedding, and thanks for being on Southeast Iowa today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us again.
Keith, thanks for being on Southeast Iowa today. Thanks for being on our podcast today. Now, I understand you have been involved with harness racing and horses for a very long time.
Oh, I've been involved with horses all my life. My father and mother were farmers. They had 7 sons. and I'm the sixth one.
Okay. Now, did your brothers get as involved in horses as you?
Well, the harness horses, my brother Royce was the one that really got us into it. When he was 11 years old, he won the pony race of Buffalo, Iowa, and that gave him the bug.
Oh,
And coming back to harness horses, he got an old horse off the racetrack to haul his two daughters to school in Fredonia, Iowa,
oh, they are.
Roseanne and Charlotte. And he going 2.5 miles back and forth, he legged the old boy up. That was in 48.
Okay.
And so in 49, he thought he would race him, and we hauled him down to Wappo, and the old horse didn't do too good. So my dad said, Red, you ought to buy colts. Well, he didn't think he had money to invest in colts, and Dad said, I'll furnish the money if you would take and drive them. And that's how we got started. And we just kept growing.
Wow. Now, you must have a real love for the animals.
Oh, yes. Well, you gotta love them, or you don't get along with them.
I bet not. Now, I want to share with my audience, you are 102 plus years old.
Yeah.
And we are here on September 2nd, 2023 in Watcheer, Iowa. And you're out here still involved in harness racing.
Yes.
What? Now, I understand you also you still take care of the horses.
Yeah. I clean 2 stalls every morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now-
And I water and help feed at night. As long as I'm on the level, I can motivate pretty good.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're what gets me up in the morning.
wow. Well, I want anybody that is watching this that's like 80 years old, some of those young whippersnappers, I want them to see you to show a fine example of people that keep on going.
You got to keep on going or you're stopped. For good.
That is amazing. What would be your favorite part of racing?
I love it all. But social hours afterwards is best.
So would you say staying active, working with the horses, and a good healthy social hour might be the secret to longevity?
Yeah.
It helps. Well, if someone was wanting to get into harness racing today, what would be your best advice to give them?
To stay out of it. No, if you want to invest in harness races, don't figure about getting a bunch, but get the best. Because breeding tells.
Okay. So if you want to be a winner, you start with the best.
Yes, and it's work, and it costs money. Yeah.
Wow.
But we started with $300 horses and used Gerald wooden sulky. We wired it together. We raced for 6-pack, cooler, anything just to race. But as we advanced, the breeding came out, and they were 5 of us directors that got the pari-mutuel bill, bought the pari-mutuel bill. This horse association had a lobbyist that everything he got a hold of, he got passed about, and that's how we got this started.
Well, this is amazing.
And we had what we wanted. We had pari-mutuel at the tracks and run them in the 80s. And we had what we wanted at Des Moines, but the thoroughbreds wouldn't race on a half-mile track, so they built Prairie Meadows.
Ah,
And that's what got that started.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, do I understand correctly that this track now has some benefits from Perry Meadows?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is wonderful. I really thank you for your time.
I tell you what,
Tell me.
do you think two people over 90 years old has kind of lost their marbles of buying a broodmare? My wife picked a mare out of a sale catalog in Delaware, Ohio, and this mare should be bought. She had the itch for this horse. And I was walking in from the barn one evening, and it struck me, if we could get this mare in our budget, we only live once, get her. I went in and I said, Catherine, can you, my son Jeff and his cousin was at Delaware, Ohio,
Okay.
and if we could get a hold of Jeff about this mare, and she about tore the telephone off the wall, and he said, yep, she's about ready to go in the ring. And so the mother of these colts that I own came to Iowa,
I'll be darned.
and we was over 90 years old.
You're an inspiration, sir. You're an inspiration. Well, that just is, that's wonderful. I mean, why not at 90?
Why not?
Yeah.
Sure. If I didn't have these horses, heck, I wouldn't want to get out of the bed in the morning.
Yeah, and that's what people need. They got to have
Yeah.
a reason.
And there's something to love. You fall in love with these. Sometimes they shouldn't be that way, but yeah, they'll keep you going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really neat.
Yeah, and my great grandson won last Sunday with my mare that's going to race tomorrow. A great grandson, 18 years old, Colt Hauser.
And you're going to get
Yeah,
to,
and we won over $1,000 in 2 minutes.
I'd say he has a future.
Don't that make you feel good?
Yeah.
You bet it
Yeah.
does.
I mean, I could just imagine if it was my $1,000. I'd even feel better.
Oh, yeah, how about 30?
Oh, yeah. That's
That's
incredible.
what they race for the east. If these horses show that they can go back east, they'll sell for a bunch of money.
Wow. And I imagine you still have contacts with folks back east then.
Oh, when I was 100, I got letters from Minnesota to Texas, from New York to California.
Wow.
Birthday cards.
That is awesome.
So I've been around.
Yes, sir.
We raced in Kansas, Missouri, Illinois. I think we raced in every place they raced horses.
Wow. Wow. I'll tell you what, if people half your age could look half as good as you do, they'd be some good looking people out there.
I don't know about the look, but I sure feel pretty good.
Well, I can just tell you're a person of joy. I can tell.
I love people.
That's what it's
Yeah.
about, isn't it?
Yeah, they're friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Keith, I've enjoyed speaking with you today. I hope sometime I can speak to you at social hour.
Wait till after the races.
All right. Thanks for being on today.
Okay.
Okay, Southeast Iowa with John Bain viewers. I am in the Pace truck. It's a Dodge Hemi. I'm glad it's got a Hemi. And I'm in there with Lisa. And Lisa, she's our starter. And Lyle is our driver of this truck. But Lisa also has control of the throttle with this lever right here. And I'm going to be quiet and let Lisa talk, and we're going to observe.
Well, what we're doing right now is we are letting the horses get lined up for the post parade, and each horse has a head number on. That head number shows you what post position the horse is going to start from behind the starting gate. That's a position that is drawn for, so it's luck of the draw. We have 6 horses entered in this race, and 1 horse is scratched due to illness. So we start 5 horses behind the gate, and the rules are you can move over on the starting gate, but you cannot move up from the second tier to the front tier. So we will have 4 horses on the starting gate with 1 horse trailing. That trailing horse can start behind any horse that it chooses. So it's really important to know the horses, the drivers, to work your strategy.
Well, this is going to be exciting. I mean, I don't think we can have a better seat for a race than right here.
So right now, you can see they're going to be announced as they go in front of the grandstand. They're going to be announced to the crowd. The announcer kind of talks about the horse's performance, past performance lines, and that's kind of where we start at.
Okay.
We get the crowd fired up. As soon as I see that there isn't any equipment on the track, I will open the wings, and that tells the horsemen that we are ready to start the race.
This is awesome. I'll tell you, folks, if you ever get a chance to be sitting where I'm sitting, you better take that. Okay.
Yep, we love to get new people to come out to the races. It's a great family activity.
And that's the thing I've noticed as I've talked to you and other folks today. It definitely is a family activity within the organization. There are so many families that are involved in this.
So my role here, I want to make sure that the horses are coming to the correct post positions, that there is no interference, and if there is, we would have a restart. Okay, Lyle.
Okay.
So Lyle let his foot off the brake, and we have control of the speed of the car now.
Okay. And the horses are getting closer.
Now we're going to follow these horses, and we're going to kind of continue to watch for infractions. We want to make sure people are staying outside of the pylons. So you can see this horse is going off stride, and the rule is he has got to lose ground when he is off stride. So here's a horse that's off stride.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that'll be good, Lyle. Yeah, this tree's good. No, this tree, Lyle. So we can kind of see him coming out of that turn. Maybe back up just a little bit.
101 and 3/5, 101 and 3. Oh, picked up some pace right there. At 30 and 3/5 out on the point, showing the way. It is Gandalf. Races second now. On the move, the big Aristotle.
That's good, Lyle.
You're take over third now, goes after Stable 8 down the backside. Tall Dark Beat Fancy and the big Aristotle. As they head to the 3/4 full, it's Gandalf on the front end. Taking it to the 3/4. It's Gandalf. 131 and 2/5, 131 and 2. You've got them all right there. And still apart to the outside, having to go a little further mile is the big Aristotle. Gandalf, the big Aristotle, now hot cam, looking right there. We'll have to go 3 three over and want to get on the front end. As they round the far turn, down the stretch they come. It's the big Aristotle Hot Can with the pace so far outside. And Tall Dark Be Fancy. And on, you got a three over for second. And it's the big Aristotle picking up the win. The big Aristotle, the Special Forces Guilding, picking up the win.
Well, that was pretty cool.
310 for the big Aristotle.
Especially with the view you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
And when Lyle was saying the numbers, the 10, the 15, that was the speed.
Yes, that was the speed of the car.
Uh-huh.
And like we had talked about earlier, the throttle had just been worked on, and definitely a little different feel, and different even from the when we kind of practiced when you were with us. It really depends on the condition of the track. If it's just been watered, if it's just been drugged, how much resistance those wheels have.
Well, I know when we went around that curve, the G-forces were a lot more than I expected.
Right. So
I can just imagine what it would be on a cart being pulled by a horse like that.
So you notice behind the gate there was one horse that made a mistake, went off stride and dove to the outside. And my focus was on if he was going to interfere with that horse that was beside him.
Gotcha.
So as long as there's no interference, that horse making a mistake is his problem.
Right.
As long as it doesn't interfere with anybody else.
Gotcha.
So
And it worked out that way.
yes, it did. Yes, it
Yes.
did. But that's kind of a stressful time starting wise.
Oh,
is,
yeah.
When are they clear to say go? And you want everybody to be safe out there. You don't want to have any accidents. If an accident would occur, before you start, you want to make sure that the race is held up. So there's a little more to it than just running the throttle.
There's a lot to it.
But like I say, Lyle, he has almost the hardest job on the track.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know it wasn't me. I didn't have the hardest.
Hey, doing a good job photoing and getting some coverage out here. We love having you, and love to be able to show people kind of what our sport is about and encourage people to come out and join us. And something that I just want to throw out there, you'll see people out here training, driving, literally from age 16 to in their 80s. And it's something that you can do your whole life. You don't have to be a 110-pound jockey to do it. People do it and work full-time jobs. That's the beauty, I think, about this sport is people can do it themselves. They don't have to hire somebody to do it. If you are somebody that loves horses, this is the place to be.
It sure is. So that little trumpet music they play, what is it called? Do you know?
I don't know the name of that melody.
But it's like...
Yeah, it is definitely the bugle that you hear in front of most all horse races in the country.
For the second. Mr. Royalty Day, last the breakers working on 18, DM Ridge and HC Jessica.
See our wedding party and all of their hats there in the front. That's fun.
That is fun. You definitely get a different perspective from here.
We say we've got 2 different kinds of drags working on the track and a water truck.
Yes.
So it takes a lot of people to put on the races.
It sure does. And it doesn't happen in 5 minutes, does it?
No, they were down here last night. I think they said they put 6 loads of water on the track last night, which probably took, a few hours to get that done.
Yeah.
Making sure that we have a good solid race surface today.
Okay, they're coming around the... Would that be turn 3?
Turn 1 and turn 3.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Yeah. And there's 5 horses in this race, so they'll all be lined up along the gate here.
Yep. So we've got 1 horse coming to the gate. a lot faster than the others. So we're gonna go slow here, Lyle. Go ahead and let him go.
All right.
But I am not gonna go away from the rest of those horses. We're gonna have a very
And make him slow it down a little.
Right, right. You know, the goal here is to have a fair start, and you know that is you know, our role here. Infractions going on. See, Lyle, if we can be back at the head of the stretch, I think we'll be able to see him coming in and out of that turn.
As they go to the 3/4 mile, it's Mr. Royal D-Dash. 134 and 2 miss, 134
Okay, that front horse made a break and went off stride, so he's having to take up and
out on top, you've got him 3 over. This DM race the
so he had to go from first to last.
That probably wasn't
We're good.
appreciated.
We're good, Lyle.
From first to last.
Pull up alongside of them. Does that bother the horse?
Okay, the gates are out.
We got a 6-horse field coming to the gate, so we'll have 5 on the gate and 1 trailer.
Okay.
And that trailer can start behind any horse that it chooses, and it can move around. If it sees one horse make a mistake, it can slide over and follow another one out of there.
All right.
Looks like somebody maybe is, oh, maybe they're just trying to get in the line here.
Looks like they're lining up. I don't know if that's a harness racing term or not, but I sounded like I knew what I was talking
It
about.
sounds good. It sounds good. I think as long as you get the point across.
Yeah. Since this is a one-camera show, this will be my last trip around the track today in the pace truck, but I will get some shots of you folks driving around, so that'll look really cool as well. So we're trying to get you all kinds of different angles today, folks, as we go into the world of harness racing right here in Wacheer, Iowa at the Keokuk County Fairgrounds. They all seem to be playing nicely together right now.
Okay, Lyle.
All right.
Startup race number 3.
Go!
Pee-wee Sparks quick off the gate out on the front end. To the side is Mark Ray. Now going to try to go after second as they make their way down quick first half of the mile. It is rolling in the sand on the front end. As they come to the half, it is Finchway Prosperity rolling in the sand. 102 and 1/5, 102 and 1. Out on the front end showing the way. Finchway Prosperity and some stars somewhere. Billy clears on the front end. Out on the front end is Finchway Prosperity. Up in the second spot is Stablemate Western Chippy. And brother roll up on the back end of Finchway Prosperity as they hit to the three-quarter pole. It's Dwayne rolling in command, taking them to the three-quarters. 131, 131. Out on the front end, showing the way. It is Finchway Prosperity. In second, Western Chippy. Racing third is Pee-wee Sparks. And you've got a dog fight for fourth, fifth, and sixth. Down the wire, it's Finchway Prosperity. Got to pick up another win over Stablemate Western Chippy in second. Pee-wee Sparks third. Fourth, we'll go to Rolling in the Sand. We'll photo it out for fifth. As around the far turn, make your way down for the start of race number 4.
Alan going back.
Here old Trop Phillies, picking up speed. And here we go, Wabash running. And she's a flying photo getting out on top. You have a 4 over. 4 second, third, fourth, and fifth. Out on the front end, and she's a flying photo. She's a flying photo out on top. Racing second is always Voodoo Magic. And now starting to shuffle, dropping in that 3 position is American Cross. Racing fourth is Will rolling with Baton Last. Racing fifth is Mary Sophia. In sixth, Orky Snorky going spy, and trailing the field is Swandican going spy. As they go to the quarter, it's She's a Flash Photo. 32 and 4 fifths, 32 and 4. Out on top, Mary Sophia on stride. Out on top, showing the way, it is Chad Svensson in command with She's a Flash Photo, the Southwind Flash Philly. Racing second is always Voodoo Magic. Racing in that third position is American Cross. American Cross right there in that third position. Racing fourth as they come to the half is Baton Last in fourth. 104 and 3 fifths, 104 and 3. Out on top, showing the way. It is She's a Flash Photo. She's a Flash Photo out on top. Racing second is always Voodoo Magic. Racing third, American Cross fourth. Baton Last in fifth. Orky Snorky going spy in sixth. Mary Sophia in seventh is Swandican going spy. Down the backside as they go to the 3/4 pole. At the 3/4, it is She's a Flash Photo. 136. She's a flash photo out on the front end. Racing second is always Voodoo Magic. In third, American Crown fourth, batting last. Races on for Vinberry, Sylvia, and Orky Snorky going spy. As they round the far turn, it is She's a flash photo. As they turn for home now, the race is on for second. American Cross up to try to take over second. As they come to the wire, it is She's a flash photo. Yeah, getting up for second. Looking like American Cross.
Tony, thanks for being on Southeast Iowa today, and thanks for giving us access to the announcer's booth.
You bet. Glad to have you up here. We always want to try to promote our sport, one of the oldest sports in the world. A lot of people kind of lose track of that, but horse racing is probably, if you look it up, it is the oldest sport in the world.
Wow. And I'll tell you what, from this vantage point, you got a great view of the track. It's air conditioned, and it's a beautiful day. It doesn't get any better than this.
No, and we've actually had some really hot weather, but very nice. We have a nice setting here overlooking the track, so you're on the outside, and I always prefer to be on the outside looking in. It's easier to announce instead of working from the infield. And a lot of the older places, they always actually announce from the infield, so then you're always turning yourself in at 360.
Yeah, you get dizzy.
You try to stay with the actual action.
All right. Well, with your voice, it's obvious why you're the announcer here, for one thing. But what else gets you involved with harness racing?
Actually been involved with harness racing for over 40 years. My aunt actually was the clerk, and she's just going to give her clerking abilities 61 years doing it.
Wow.
And she just kind of, when I was a little kid, we bought a horse together, and back in 84 and 85, we went to Missouri. She lived in Missouri and taught in Missouri. We won the Missouri State Fair when we actually raced 2 heats a day.
Wow.
And we actually won that, and it kind of had been hooked ever since. And then my son actually has taken an interest, and we're raising babies and actually racing, and he's warming up horses, and maybe someday you might see him racing. He doesn't really have the desire and drive right now, but getting more and more with the responsibilities of warming up and helping out in the barn area.
I bet it kind of hooks you the more you do it, I would think.
Yeah, it's almost like a drug.
Yeah.
You hope every one of them that you raise is going to be a champion. Some make it, some don't, but you always hope you always have that diamond in the rough. And we've got one out here right now that just raced just a couple races ago. Was raised, born, bought at a sale, raised it. Connie Rowland and Dwayne. You talked with Dwayne earlier. That's a diamond in the rough. 10 times out, 9 wins and 1 second. Very nice filly right there.
Oh yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. One of the things you mentioned about your aunt, I mean, a lot of things, everybody I've talked to today, I mean, this is a family event.
Yeah, that's what a lot of harness racing, we don't see a lot of new people getting in, but it's always second, third, fourth, fifth generations. And Keith Carey, one of our oldest members, he's 102 years old, and that family tradition just keeps carrying on.
I had the pleasure of visiting with Keith earlier, and I told him I want to socialize with him sometime.
You bet, yeah. And just a good family atmosphere, something to come out, relax, enjoy horse racing, and watch these four-legged athletes perform.
And they do that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's one thing I should have asked you that I didn't. What is it? If there's one thing I should have asked that I didn't,
what's that?
What should I have asked you? You tell me.
Just to try to get new people into the sport. We'd love to have people, and with you coming out and promoting our sport, that's what we're always looking for. We had a legislative day here where we actually had some local representatives come out, got the opportunity to race on 2-seater golf carts. We've had the lieutenant governor, and we just want to try to get as many people involved in the sport of harness racing, because the numbers have dwindled with people passing on, but it's got to be that second, third, fourth, and fifth generations to carry it on.
And maybe even some new blood too, that if they're interested, they can reach out to some of the folks on here and maybe get involved.
Yeah, and that's what we're always looking for. And come out, spend a day, get the opportunity to jog a horse, go out to some of the farms. People invite you out, and we do have some 2-seater jog carts to be able to take people around the actual the fairgrounds, and you get
I saw the
experience.
bridal party was taking rides earlier
Yeah,
today.
bridal party. That's something different.
Yeah.
We haven't ever had a bridal party, and it's very neat to have them here. And they're hooping and hollering, having a good time, and getting the up close experience of harness racing.
That's right. Well, Tony, thanks for letting us be a part of this today.
You bet. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did, putting it together and meeting those fine people, all in Iowa Harness Racing. I've got a link to their website in the description of this episode so you can learn more. This episode of Southeast Iowa Today with John Bain has been brought to you by Car Doctor, Griner Auto Body, Wayland State Bank, McDonald Boneyard, Hinshaw Trailer Sales, Girling Repair, B&B Propane, and the family of Jet Stops. I'm your host, John Bain. Stay friendly, Southeast Iowa.